Woodlands Checkpoint is about to get a lot bigger as part of plans to significantly reduce travel time. DNA will be collected from 100,000 Singaporeans that will help identify new ways to prevent disease. And with over 200 cases of monkeypox worldwide, is it a matter of time before the virus arrives here? Hello, you're watching The Big Story with me, Olivia Quay. Remember to subscribe to the Straits Times channel so you never miss an episode. If you've ever been caught in a jam crossing the causeway, you'll be pleased to know that the Woodlands Checkpoint will undergo a massive redevelopment and expansion, which will enhance clearance for all vehicles passing through. It will have greater automation and flexi lanes, which can either clear cars or motorcycles and result in travel time being 4 times faster. It also aims to adequately contain traffic within the checkpoint to reduce congestion on the surrounding roads. And security checks will be conducted away from the main parts of the checkpoint to mitigate security risks. Well, back in 2017, it was announced that the checkpoint would be expanded to take in the old Woodlands town centre. ICA today says that this further expansion, which will be completed in 10 to 15 years, will meet a projected 40% increase in traffic volume by 2050. Traffic volume is expected to return to the daily average of 300,000 travellers soon and will only continue to increase. And to make way for this project, 9 nearby HDB blocks will be acquired. These are blocks 210 to 218, Marsiling Crescent and Marsiling Lane. Residents will have to move out by the second quarter of 2028, and around 1,100 replacement flats will be located in Woodlands Street 13. Joining me is Christine Sun, Senior Vice President of Research and Analytics at Orange Tea and Thai. So Christine, what's your reaction to today's announcement that 9 HDB blocks will be acquired to make way for the expansion of the Woodlands Checkpoint?
We think that the acquisition exercise that is going to be done will be a good one. Apart from alleviating traffic congestion and improving travel time and even enhancing security in the area, I think having more land in the Woodlands Checkpoint area may give the authorities more leeway to add amenities and even more facilities to support commuters in future. So currently the place is quite congested with vehicles and even commuters. So there is quite limited scope to enhance the environment there. But if they were to acquire more land, then perhaps in future they can add more retail shops, maybe eateries, or even other commercial components in the area. And all this can help to enhance the traveling experience and even make commuting across the causeway more pleasant or even enriching for commuters. And of course, it can also enhance our brand image, and that place can potentially be redeveloped into another tourist spot.
Let's talk about the acquisition of these 9 HDB blocks in Marsiling. It doesn't fall under the Selective En bloc Redevelopment Scheme, but flat owners, they'll be offered the same rehousing benefits under the scheme. Do you expect most owners to take up the offer?
Yes, I think we expect most of the flat owners to take up the offer because I think the rehousing benefits are quite attractive. So if we look at the resale price alone, if we look at, let's say, considering HDB data for resale prices for flats in Marsiling Crescent, which is the current site that is being affected right now, the median price for the first 4 months of this year for 4-room flats is about 380,000. And for 3-room flats, it's about 335,000. But if they were to shift to the new site at Woodlands, the overall median price for the same period is actually much higher. For 4-room flats, it's about 450,000, and for 3-room flats, it's about 340,000. So potentially for the affected homeowners, if they were to take up the offer and move to the new place, we may expect the future resale price at Woodlands to be higher than the original site. And moreover, if we consider the lease commencement period for the affected flats, if we look at the data, it seems like they are built, that means the lease is commencing from 1980 to 1986. And this makes them about 36 years old to about 42 years old this year. Therefore, these are aging flats that are in the market. So if we look at that point of view, it may make better sense to take up the offer to get the replacement flat that comes with a fresh lease of 99 years. So, and of course, the site is nearer to MRT station and residents can still enjoy the same amenities and environment that they are quite familiar with.
But for eligible owners who don't wish to take up the replacement flat, Christine, they can choose to sell their existing flat with the rehousing benefits on the open market. Is that a wise option in your opinion?
Well, of course, owners can always not take up the offer and buy another resale flat elsewhere. But it seems like there are not many options in the market for the same price. Because when we look at this year's transactions, it seems like 4-room flats in Woodlands is one of the lowest price among all the towns. And for 3-room flats, perhaps they may have more options. They can consider flats in Geylang, Toa Payoh, maybe Jurong West or Bedok, but they may not be familiar with these areas. And of course, they can still purchase pricier flats in other locations, but they may still need to top up maybe some amount of cash even after the rehousing benefits.
And that was Christine Sun there, Senior Vice President of Research and Analytics at Orange Tea and Thai. Still on property, on its second attempt, Lakeside Apartments along Yuan Ching Road has hit the collective sale jackpot of $273.89 million, 14% above its $240 million reserve price. Marketing agent Propnex says owners of the 3-bedroom units stand to get about $2.28 million each. Singapore badminton player Loh Kian Yew is in Forbes' 30 Under 30 Asia, which is a list celebrating 300 young entrepreneurs and trailblazers across Asia under the age of 30 in 10 various categories. This recognition comes as the 24-year-old became the first Singaporean to be crowned the badminton world champion back in December. Singapore is embarking on a project called SG100K to map the DNA and complete set of genes of 100,000 Singaporeans. This way, doctors and researchers can pinpoint the underlying causes of cancer and chronic ailments and identify new ways to prevent or slow down disease progression. And that will help pave the way for new drugs, faster diagnostics, and targeted treatments through precision medicine. Monkeypox continues to spread around the world with more than 200 cases now confirmed by the European Centre for Disease Prevention and Control. Of the 219 cases in total, most are in Europe. The UK, where the virus was first detected in early May, currently has the highest number of confirmed cases at 71. It's followed by Spain with 59 cases and Portugal with 37. The virus is endemic in parts of Central and West Africa. The unusual monkeypox outbreak has been a topic of lively discussion this week among top health officials from member states of the World Health Organization who have traveled to Geneva to take part in the World Health Assembly. The meetings are where WHO's work is reviewed and new goals are set to determine its policies. Professor Dale Fisher, a regular guest on The Big Story, joins us from Geneva today. He's there in his role as chair of WHO's Global Outbreak Alert and Response Network. And when he's back in Singapore, you know him as a senior consultant in infectious diseases at NUH. Good morning, Prof. So with more than 200 cases of monkeypox worldwide and rising, is it a matter of time before the virus arrives in Singapore, and are we prepared for it?
Thanks, Olivia. Yes, this has been a focus of some discussions here in Geneva and obviously in the in the media. The point to make is that the virus is not transmitted very efficiently. It requires close contact. We know it's been around for some decades, and it's endemic in at least 9 African countries. And the mechanism there is regular spillover events from animals, whether they're primates, rodents, and African squirrels have all been found to have monkeypox. So that's how it normally occurs. And then it can occur by exportation to countries. And we had a case in Singapore from Nigeria a few years ago. And this is the normal pattern of transmission. But what we're seeing is something quite different, where there's actually being transmission in those sort of non-traditional African countries. Almost all of the cases are males who have sex with other males. There do seem to have been some major events where there could have been some significant transmission happening. And that in that situation, when you get international visitors attending these events and then going back to their own countries, this is how you get a situation where there's about 15 countries at last count have identified transmission to people that haven't been to Africa. So that's the current epidemiology. It's really quite different to what we see normally. It's only been going for a couple of weeks. So no, I don't believe it is inevitable we'll see cases in Singapore. There's a strong belief here that we can put the cat back in the bag, if you like, by early detection of all the cases, and that requires a lot of vigilance in, for instance, sexual health clinics and things like that. And if those people are identified early, isolated, and further spread prevented, then we can end this cluster and return to the situation where the only cases we see are exported from those countries.
Well, Prof, how are countries tackling the monkeypox outbreak? And at this point, is there a need for any discussions about vaccination strategies?
So the smallpox vaccination is quite effective. It's the same family of viruses that between smallpox and monkeypox. So the vaccine does have effect, but there's not a large supply, obviously, smallpox being eradicated in the late 1970s. So, but people have always kept the capacity to make smallpox vaccine, really in case of bioterrorism or something like that. But no, there's been no discussion of widespread vaccination. You'd have to cast a very broad net, and you'd have to use up a limited supply. So no, that wouldn't be a good strategy. But it may have a role in people with early disease. You can actually mitigate deterioration, perhaps in immune-compromised patients that are identified early. So in that sense, as an early treatment, smallpox vaccine could have a role, but it's a limited role. Really, we're looking at the public health interventions, which we're all very familiar now, Olivia, with early detection, diagnosis, isolation, contact tracing, and quarantining those contacts. And in this way, we should be able to stop the spread.
Right. Well, you are connecting with us from Geneva. So what else have you and your peers have been discussing over there? And any new concerns about the COVID-19 pandemic or even the flu?
Yeah, of course, monkeypox is very much a late breaker item. Most of the discussions, at least in terms of health emergencies, have been around COVID and the next pandemic, if you like, sort of how we develop the global health workforce, especially in light of the vulnerabilities that we've looked at, all the really international contributions that can be made to pandemic response, while understanding that an understanding of how countries, literally at a country level, manage the pandemic, these will need to be paired, whether it's the international efforts or the national efforts. So how an architecture can be designed globally and locally that sees alerts trigger a rapid response, rather than what we saw this time was a very varied response, where in Asia the alert triggered a lot of work back in January, February 2020, whereas much of the rest of the world was still believing everything would be okay. So this trigger needs to be a lot stronger. There's another item is a global infection control strategy, not so much for outbreak response, but just in general to bring up the standards of healthcare associated infection control globally. That's a nice piece of work and a resolution going forward on that today. And there's also obviously lots of work on non-communicable diseases and in many ways the catch-up that has to be done in the wake of the COVID response. So yeah, it's very busy times here at the World Health Assembly.
Well, thank you so much for carving out some time in your schedule for us. It's always a pleasure to speak with infectious diseases expert, Professor Dale Fisher. The Malay Heritage Centre in Kampong Glam is holding a Hari Raya open house starting on Friday. Let's find out more from senior culture correspondent Ong Sofen. Sounds like it's going to be a very busy 3 days, Sofen. So what should we look out for?
Oh, there's plenty of things for everybody this weekend because the Malay Heritage Centre is closing in August for a revamp. So this is kind of like its last bash party plus the Hari Raya party all rolled into one. So you've got things for the party crowd, you've got things for the family. So tonight's launch party, there's this very interesting performance to look out for from Com Collective. They're doing Randai, which is a Minangkabau folk tradition, and it's quite fun. It promises like singing and dancing and martial arts all in one performance. And over the weekend, there's also dance performances by the Dian dancers and Mak Menari. There are two dance groups with dancers from different generations, and they come together to produce a dance production. And for families, you have lots of things for kids to do. There's a storytelling session, and it's not just storytelling, but the kids will also get to make kueh from clay. So if you want to entertain the kids, it's a great place to go to for the weekend.
A fantastic arts pick there by senior culture correspondent Ong Sofen. Some say Singapore doesn't need yet another hot pot restaurant, but apparently we do. Here's senior food correspondent Wong Ayuk. So Ayuk, tell us more about Uncle Fong Hot Pot.
Yes, we really need this hot pot restaurant. It's opened by Mr. Fong Chi Chung. That's why it's called Uncle Fong. He's also the founder of Putian Restaurants, and all his employees call him Fong Shu Shu, which means Uncle Fong. This is a Chongqing style kind of hot pot restaurant, which means you get a lot of mala flavors. It's the first restaurant that opened in Singapore. It opened in Great World. You can choose different levels of spiciness in your broths. And what is also unusual in this restaurant is that it has a 9-grid pot. Usually when you go to hot pot restaurants, they have like a single pot or double pot, or sometimes even triple pots. But at Uncle Fong, you get this pot with 9 grids. What is impressive about this restaurant is that the menu lists a lot of things that you don't find elsewhere. It has a lot of like organ meat. That was the first time I tried ox liver actually in a hot pot, and it's really good. Another unusual ingredient you find is the gong cai, which is like a dried vegetable with a crisp stem. It's really crunchy when you cook it in a hot pot. But if you don't eat spicy food, don't worry. Besides the mala broth, there are other broths as well, which are not spicy. So you have really, really a lot of choices at this restaurant, which is what I like about it. So sure, yeah, we always need more hot pot restaurants.
Now that was senior food correspondent Wong Ayuk making a strong case on this new hot pot restaurant. Something else for you, Obi-Wan Kenobi is back on our screens on Disney Plus from tomorrow, starring Ewan McGregor. The actor spoke with the Straits Times, sharing that he has a family connection to Star Wars. You'll find the story and interview online at str.sg/life. Also visit straitstimes.com for more news and our YouTube channel for more videos. Subscribe by hitting the red button below. I'm Olivia Quay and I'll see you tomorrow for more stories on The Big Story.